thank you all for joining us tonight. The candidate forum, I think when I was a candidate was the last time that we had a contested election, and they did a candidate forum at the school. And it was a really great way to just get to know people and just allow our community to ask some questions. I'd like to try to keep this to an hour. We had, like I said, about 16 people who requested an invitation. I'm not sure if all of them have questions or not. But in the interest of time, what I'd like to do is if someone asks a question, then we will allow all three candidates to give a response, but just try to keep your responses, fairly concise, just so we can try to keep this to about an hour. And the way I'd like to go about asking questions is if you can just do your Zoom hand raise, if you have one, and then I'll just call on those in the order that they go up. Does that sound good to everybody? Does everybody know how to raise their hand in Zoom? I'll just go first just to give everyone a minute to figure out the hand raise. Can you all answer the question, why do you believe in choice in education and specifically charter education? And let's go, just our standard order, like pretend you're in a row, would just be Joe, Lindsay, Damon. Does that work? Okay.
Okay. Good. Okay. Well, I guess I'm up. So I'm happy to be here. And it's a good first question to start with, I suppose. So one, I believe, in charter schools, I think it's part of it's American. It's part of the free market economy to have choice in school. That's how all schools get better. When you look at our university system, it's the envy of the world because students can go to any school that they choose, any school that they can get into, and all the schools have to compete to offer what those students want. It's similar with charter schools. They all began, I believe, out of California because as an alternative to failing public schools. I don't think we have that same situation here in Colorado, not in our district or really county, but the importance is with charter schools is that you have the people that spend the most time with students involved in making the decisions about their education. And so that's the parents and teachers. And in doing so and having that parent involvement, I think it provides the best education and actually makes all schools better.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, Lindsay.
Okay, well, to piggyback off of some of that, I totally agree with just the providing competition within education so that you do get what people are looking for. And I also strongly believe in the parent aspect of a child's education, and that a lot of charters are brought about because the parents are looking for that education option in a community. I also, just with school choice, love the idea that a family that has different kinds of learners can find the right fit for their child. So I actually know people who have some of their children MA and some at a traditional public school. It's what fit their child best. And I am so thankful that we live in an area where we have that choice as parents to figure out what works best for our children, if a very structured environment like what we have at MA is the best fit, or if it's somewhere else, maybe it's at one of the private schools or a arts focused school. But specifically with our kids, I knew that the structure and the curriculum was going to work best for our children. So I was thankful that we had that charter option here and the parent involvement piece, because I was looking for a place where I could be very active in my children's education and future as well.
Thank you. Okay, Damon.
I agree. I think most parents at MA probably agree with both Lindsay and Joe. Primarily for me, it's the parents' involvement in determining, things like curriculum, courses, what their children are doing, and being involved in that, day to day, not in the instruction, but just being able to follow along, as they desire, and make sure the kids are getting the kind of education that they would like them to have. And so a charter school, I think, gives parents the opportunity to do that. And, depending on what the charter of the school is, you can have different emphasis, whether it be arts or sciences or, whatever the charter is. The parents can have the opportunity to put their kids into those types of school. Like Lindsay said, competition's great. I love it. And that's one of the reasons I like Monument Academy. My 7th grader and 9th grader go there because we feel like they get a great education. And so that's, for me, the main thing with charter schools is the ability for parents and teachers to be involved in developing a curriculum that has a clear set of guiding principles of what that charter school is about. And then we're all kind of aiming towards the same goal, and not necessarily, I don't think the best place to determine that is necessarily at the state level. I think the local control and having parent and teacher involvement is the main reason I like charter schools.
Awesome. Wait. Okay, I am unmuted. Thank you all. Okay, the next, for those of you who just joined us, if you have a question, please do the Zoom, raise your hand in Zoom. The next question is coming from Kim Stoltenberg, and let's go in reverse order. So we'll have Damon go first, Lindsay, and then Joe.
All right, so my question is regarding the mask requirements. Our governor has required masks for ages 11 and older, but our school is requiring masks for all students from kindergarten up. Parent views on this vary widely. Where do your views fall with regard to current student mask requirements and with regard to potential masking requirements for the next school year?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Great question.
Let's get divisive right away. No.
I have strong personal views on that. And as you can see right now, I'm not wearing a mask. However, I would say we have a responsibility to obey where we can, right? And so if there's a government mandate that we have, it's the board's responsibility to obey that charter. We have a responsibility to protect teachers and students. And so we obviously need to use wisdom with that. In general, if I had to make a call as a board member, I would say that I'm for as much parent freedom in decision making as possible. And so, there's kind of two things that the board has to weigh. One is giving parents the option to make those choices, and the other one is, if there's a child who has a health risk and needs to wear a mask, they may not have an option to just say, I'm not going to wear a mask. Now, there's always, as we've developed this year, a lot of options for online, for Zoom. And at some point, those students may decide Zoom's a better way to go, some kind of online learning. I don't know, it's a difficult question. I do think the board has a responsibility to, recognize that they're under authority when it comes to some of those rules. And so it's not always their decision. However, my personal view is parents should be given as much autonomy in making decisions as we possibly can. And so that'd be my take on it. But good question and a hard question.
Okay. Lindsay.
Yeah, so straight to it, Kim. That's great. It's a great question. So I think the biggest thing to recognize as a board is that we have guidelines and we have mandates. And the board is bound by mandates. We're lawfully bound by those. So there are the mandates that come down, like the current mandate, and then there are guidelines. And my personal take on it is that I don't believe we should implement anything above what we're lawfully bound to do. I believe strongly in freedom of choice, and whatever that choice is, whether that choice is to mask your child or not. I think parents are the best decision makers for their children's bodies and their health decisions. So I do believe we have the benefit now of a year's worth of understanding of this virus. We have a lot more data. We have more therapeutics and over-the-counter medicines on its way, and we have had the choice for people to vaccinate as well. So there should be that choice as well for everybody, whether it's educators or a parent for their child deciding to use PPE or deciding to vaccinate, whatever that personal decision is. But I would like to see us, I would like to see the board examine only what they are lawfully bound and not go beyond that.
Great. Joe?
Yes, good question. And here I think that we have a lot of data now about this virus, and we can use that data to guide our decision. You know, as long as we have the freedom that we're not lawfully bound to or compelled to use masks. If we have the choice, we can look at the data, and it shows that there's a very, very low infection rate with really any children, and a very, very, very low death rate amongst children. And at this point in the virus, with really the first wave and even the second wave behind us, there's a very low death rate amongst the general population, including those that are sort of an at-risk population. So here in Colorado, the recent data that I saw is that we're averaging less than 1 death in the state per week. And so I think that some of these guidelines and mandates started out of an abundance of caution and out of just not knowing the true potential of the virus. But at this point, I think we can already see that, and that I think we can safely, if we're given the freedom, that we would not need to require masks for our children.
Great. Okay, thank you. The next question will come from Lindsay Hollinger. And we'll start with Lindsay Clinton on this one and then go down the row. So Lindsay, Damon, and then Joe.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. During the last board meeting, the board heard a public comment asking them to take a stance against legal protections for transgender people. Considering that the school vision statement emphasizes educating all students in their journey of becoming well-rounded, flourishing individuals and building relationships so that all are valued and have a sense of belonging, if elected, how will you balance your personal beliefs with your duty as a board member to uphold this vision for all students, including our transgender students? Can trans students and their parents and their families trust that you will include them where our vision says all students, and that you'll uphold the principle laid out in the vision statement that all students are valued and belong here at MA?
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for that question. Love the name. So I think the main thing, the board does promise to uphold the vision and philosophy and values of the school. So I think with some of these legislation, the various legislation that is coming down, the board's going to take a hard look at what fits within what the parameters are in terms of our value system at the school, and what guides our curriculum, and what is also best for all of the students across the board, and determining what is equality for all of the students, how that fits in with the facilities, how that fits in with the curriculum as well, and fits in bottom line with what the school stands for and what the parents want within the school, and what doesn't go over what parents feel they have in terms of discussions within their own households versus what is taught within the curriculum at the school. So we'll have to really, as a board, look and pour through a lot of these legislation that's coming through, and carefully determine how that looks within our school and within what our stakeholders want as a community at the school as well.
Okay, Joe.
Okay, good question, tough one. And first I want to sort of address like where we get sort of these protected classes and the importance of that. And I remembered, taking classes in law school about why we have these protected classes. And in a sense, there are things about us, about our population, about us as individuals, that we can't change. And so we shouldn't necessarily be discriminated against because of things that we just can't change about ourselves, especially when they really don't matter much. Like when you look at someone's race, so a person's race has no bearing on whether they can afford an apartment or afford a home, so like shouldn't even be part of the decision process. And so these protected classes are important because all of us have something about us that we can't change, that sets us apart from everyone else. Now, here there's, of course, with some of the legislation that you see nationally and even in the state, with the most recent one, the most controversial with the gender identity, that's something that really people can't change about themselves. And so it at many levels requires protection. The issue that it will have, especially in schools, is well, it sort of conflicts with another protected class, which is the person's gender, the person's biological gender. So we're going to have two things in conflict that are going to affect certain things, like perhaps sports teams, perhaps restrooms. And I think that some of this is just going to have to get worked out nationally. Here at our school, I think that this is where it's great to be a charter school, because it's our parents that are going to get to decide and help us as a board decide what direction our policies will go. And that's the importance of a charter school here. And then we would see, how to handle maybe sports teams or how to handle restrooms if it really ends up coming down to that.
Okay, Mr. Tiffany.
Yeah, I listened to the last board meeting, and that's not how I received the comment as a comment against protections for transgender students. I heard the comment was more of a protection of the young women and whatnot who are in the women's bathroom, and should we allow biological males in that bathroom? And so that's something that the board should certainly address. My wife ran D1 track for the University of Kansas, and I don't think biological males should be running against her in a female sport. And I don't think biological males should be in the female bathroom. I don't think biological females should be in the male bathroom. That's not saying that we don't accept all students. It's not saying that we won't give them an opportunity to have privacy, just like we want those young ladies to have privacy, just like we want those young men to have privacy. We want those transgender people to feel accepted as well. I believe 100% in the individual liberty, but not at the expense of other people's, ability to perform, other people's ability to feel comfortable, those types of things. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Wow, two really tough questions out of the gate. I don't have another hand raised. Does anyone has a question? Just throw up your Zoom hand if you can. Oh, Melanie Strop.
Hi, guys. My apologies, I was having technical difficulties. I really don't have any questions for the candidates. I just want to, once again, thank you for being willing to volunteer your time. I'm coming to my 3-year tenure, and it was a wild and crazy 3 years, but I loved every minute, and I'm so proud of y'all for stepping up and being willing to do that as well. I also wanted to give a shout out to Megan and all her hard work. Great presentation, Megan. Good job, sweetheart. And thank you for all your hard work in putting this together. I know your research into.
Oh, hold on. Keep going. That's just, yeah, somebody's not muted. Okay.
That's okay. I just want to say thank you to you, Megan. You've done a wonderful job, and I wanted to support you as a fellow board member. And say thank you for all your work you've done at putting this election together. You've done a great, great job. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you. Yes, well, it's an important one.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
That's it. That's all I had.
And Melanie, thank you for your service the last 3 years. You picked a very difficult 3 years to be on the board. Almost as difficult as my 3 years.
My pleasure, girl.
Yes. Mrs. Patterson, I see your hand.
Hi, sorry, I'm multitasking. I was wondering about each of your philosophies on inclusion of all kinds of student needs, with special ed needs, gifted and talented needs, all the needs that we're also discussing with gender identity, things like that. Inclusion in the general education, what your philosophy is on that.
Okay, should we start with Damon?
I think in general, inclusion is an awesome thing. I also think Monument Academy has limited resources. And so, you know, we definitely are going to have to make some difficult decisions on what we can and can't support. As the school grows, you're going to be able to do more of those things. And I think that whatever we do decide to do, we should do well. So we should make sure that we're at the level that we can do it well before we present options to people. But certainly I'm all for, you know, helping out as many parents as we can, assuming that we have the facilities and the equipment and the teachers and the resources to do that the way that it needs to be done.
Okay. Joe?
Yes, well, I think, first of all, with the classical education that Monument Academy provides, that it's actually really well suited for inclusion. Like, I don't know about most of you, but when I was in elementary school, I wasn't worrying about Greek mythology or, you know, Roman history, and even as much on the Revolutionary War and Civil War as my own kids are learning today. So I think that, one, having that very broad education, even at this elementary school level, is really helps with this classical education. So I think that that along with the parental involvement with the curriculum is really helps also with inclusion. We do have limited resources, but I think that we're already doing a pretty good job from what I've seen that my children have already experienced at this point. And I think that so much has changed in maybe a generation than to where it is today. And that by the time, say, my children, which are all elementary schoolers, and move through, as Monument Academy grows its classes all the way through 12th grade, that there'll just be more opportunities for that. One thing that I've noticed about Monument Academy compared to other schools is that it's a much more supportive environment within the student body itself of each other. And compared to other schools, you know, whether it's a larger school or maybe a large public school that has more bullying issues or more you know, division amongst its population. So from what I've seen being involved in the school as a volunteer, I see a lot of support for everyone, for all students. And so I think that goes back to being a charter school.
Awesome, thank you. Lindsay?
The others have kind of touched on this with, you know, yes, we have limited abilities right now in terms of what we can offer. However, you know, the goal is always to grow and do that without losing the foundation and the quality that we can provide as a school right now, and make sure that we're providing that quality to everyone across the board. So, you know, work within the constraints that we have right now, but always be looking for ways to expand those opportunities and ways that we can expand our student body that way too, and bring more and more people in to experience all the things that are what we love about this school, and grow the school that way too. So, like Damon said, you don't want to go too quickly and present things too quickly and then do nothing really successfully. But it's definitely a place to always be looking to expand our opportunities, and I'd love to pursue that more.
I don't see the hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I also just wanted to thank our amazing candidates. Thank you for being willing to volunteer to serve the school, and especially in such a prominent and in such an important leadership position. What is your understanding of the role of a board member within that leadership and authority, the authority and the leadership as you see it of your administration? And then what are your expectations for working with your fellow board members as well as your administrators?
Okay, let's see here. I think we'll start with Joe.
Okay, yes, good question. So certainly this, as a charter, the charter is run by parents that are elected to the board, and we have to have at least 5 board members. Yeah, that's part of the law, and normally Miami Academy has 6. And so the 6 work together as a team to change policies and lead the direction of the school. And I think one thing from what I've been a part of so far is that there's sort of a steep learning curve to becoming a board member. Mm-hmm. And that, you can't, I don't have the expectation to come in and just completely change how the board works. I believe that I would come in and work with the others that have been there, because I think the board has done a terrific job over the last few years with everything that the school has been through. And that it's very important for a school of our size and with the resources it has, the limited resources it has, for the board to work together as one unit. And so I think that all of us sort of bring different skills and backgrounds to the board, and that we just need to work as a team together to do the best that we can. Given that, certainly the president of the board is really the CEO of the board, and has more responsibility under the bylaws than maybe the other board members, and that's an extremely important role. And then also, as far as working with the rest of the staff, there are staff members that then report to the board, and those staff members have staff members that report to them. So there's this organizational structure that is all based upon having these parents that are elected by the parents of the students.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay, let's go with Lindsay next, please.
Sure. So Joe really covered a lot of the structure stuff. I would say I was kind of just an oblivious parent up until a couple months ago when I started really reading through more about the board, and learned that, the board really manages the policy and governs as a single entity. So they're voting on things and obviously hiring COO, CFO, but we answer to the stakeholders, and then we have their constituents. So that's why I really encourage the parents to get involved and be educated and be making those public comments, and be active and involved in the school in that way. That's something that I've really got involved in the last year, just educating myself more on education initiatives and what the school board does, what are the parameters within our school, what are we autonomous with, what does our charter state that we have to stay within. So, we have the board has the couple of people they hire. Otherwise, it's policy and governing, reviewing the every year reviewing the bylaws and the policies and making sure that those are updated. But I would think coming into the board, we bring our strengths, and then we find where those strengths all plug in together to be a unified force that works well together, works in the best interest of the school, and really puts the students first and the mission of the school first.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. Damon.
I don't know. I would go with what Joe said. Like, I'm just willing to serve. I love kids. I love Monument Academy. I love parental choice, and I'm willing to do whatever the board members say that we do. I'm happy to do it. I will say I've been on a couple boards before for not-for-profits, and they all ran different. And so, we have governance requirements that I think the board's aware of, and I'm willing to do whatever can help out. I would echo what Lindsay says, and Joe said the same thing. We're here to represent the parents. So I think I'm confident with both of them. So I'm really happy with them doing it. I'm happy to do it as well. So I think our job is to represent parents, and whatever the board needs to do. We certainly have a lot of, I've been reading through some of the guidelines and some of the documents, and there's a lot to do. So more than I thought when I said I would do it. But I'm happy to do that if that's the way we can serve. And our primary job is to represent the parents and the curriculum and the choices that they want to make about Monument Academy. I do have a 9th grader, and so I'm excited to see how we can, work towards building the high school and work towards, continuing her through 12th grade. So I'm excited to be part of that, whatever that looks like. Thank you.
That's great. We have a high school parent. Next question comes from Angela, I believe. It says WG
Yep.
Video Team.
It's Angela. Sorry, that's my work email. Sorry, this is so weird. I'm on my phone. My question is, I've been with MA for about 7 years now, and when I first started at MA, I really loved how much input the parents had and how much transparency there was. And then I feel like we kind of went through this era of secrecy where the board was kind of in secrecy. We didn't have a lot of input. And I felt really kind of ousted as a parent, as far as even, I didn't even feel comfortable in the school. Classes are now locked down. I don't get to volunteer as often. And then when COVID hit, it's even more so. Like, I don't get to see my kids' teachers or what their classroom looks like. I don't get to go in and just kind of observe when I want to. And I hear a lot from everyone that we really want to empower parents and hear from them and, make it a school that's led by the parents. And I would love to hear, and I also want to say thank you to the current board for your transparency and getting us back on track. For the new board members, I'd love to hear, how do you feel you can help bring that power back to the parents and let our voices actually be heard and implemented in curriculum, huge, in volunteering, huge, and just keeping the values that MA has had and what they were founded on in place, because I feel like a lot of that's getting lost.
Okay, let's go with Lindsay first, please.
Sure, that is an awesome question. And like a year ago, that's where I found myself as a parent, was realizing I wanted to get more involved, and where could I do that? And the best thing that you could do to help the board is really start paying attention to things that impact the charters, sending that feedback and sending it. And, I think it's right to expect responses. So being involved with providing the feedback, sending, doing your research on legislation that's maybe coming down that impacts charter schools, and making comments at the board meetings that are when it's appropriate to make the public comments on those items as well. I would love to see, I don't know if everybody realizes, but every year we sign their handbook, and it says that we are supposed to have 16 hours as a family per family involved in the school. And that's one of the things I put on my questionnaire actually, was I'd love to see something instituted in a more formal manner. There's actually software programs out there that you can use that will track for you what your hours are. You input your hours, you swap with parents. Educators and staff can put in, hey, Mrs. Collier needs help in the library shelving books on Wednesday at 2. Cool, I can totally go do that. Or a 4th grade teacher could use help sorting through things, or with centers in the class. Even whether you have a 4th grader or not, it's fantastic to get in there and be able to see what different teachers are teaching, how the students frankly are in class. I love getting to see my kids and how they interact with their classmates and their teachers. It gives you a really great appreciation for what our teachers do, getting to see them in their classroom environments and managing the children. COVID's been really rough with that. That's why I was really excited to see the book fair volunteer sign up come up, because that was an opportunity to be in the school. So I really hope and pray that it looks more normal next year in terms of parents being able to come in and really provide that support, because frankly, we get even more reward out of it, learning about how our school runs, how the teachers teach, how the curriculum is taught to our children, how our children act there. And then, it's not always feasible for every parent to be in person. I know, like when I had my youngest and he was a baby, I couldn't come and do centers at the school and be as involved there. So I let the teachers know, if you got laminating, you got papers you need sorted, whatever it is, send it home with my children. I will help you from home and send that back in. And even those little things just help provide support, and that counts as volunteer time. But whether it's just educating yourself on matters that you can bring to the board, and then communicating with the board, the administration, or volunteering, I really think those are the best ways to get engaged and get involved and know what is going on, and be able to also provide really good feedback as a parent. But I totally believe in that with the transparency as well. And I think that we've seen a really positive shift in the last few years. So I thank the board as well, because I think that's been an awesome thing to see as a school.
Thanks, Lindsay. Let's go with Damon.
It's a great question. I think that the primary way that parents should influence the school is through the board, and we're the representatives, or the board is the representatives, and things like this, forums where you can ask questions, be involved. Last board meeting where there was public parent comment is a great way to do that. Personally, if I was on the board, I would want to be available to any parent that has a concern to email me or talk to me about that. For me, when I say parent-led, I just want to make sure that I'm not being confusing, because I think the leader in the classroom is the teacher, and the leader of the school is the principal. And so someone has to lead and someone has to be in charge. The job of the board is to communicate those parent desires and to make sure that our charter is being followed, and then to let those teachers who are professional educators do a great job. When I say parent-led, I mean parents should be primarily the ones who have a say in curriculum, who have a choice on what their kids do and a choice of where to send their kids to school. And then the parents are involved. Lindsay has some great ideas on how we could do that, and I totally agree with her. Parents should be involved. I think one thing that I heard from you is probably some of the frustration is with the COVID-19 restrictions that the government put on us and that the school had to follow. My view is that should be primarily a parental decision. The parent is the best one to balance the risk of illness with the risk of not getting an education in person. And I personally favor in-person learning to the max extent possible. And then if families decide that there's a risk that they think is a high risk, then they could choose to participate in the classroom through Zoom, through some other multimedia, opportunities. But that technology is there, and I feel like that should be a parental decision. As Joe alluded to, there's really not much risk in the lower age groups. I think that's how a lot of families feel. That's how I feel. I personally would rather my kids be in school if the risk is that they catch the flu. But regardless of how you come out on that, I think that those are the types of things that I think should be parental decisions. When I'm saying that it's a parent-led, or that there's parental authority, I feel like those are decisions that should be made that way, which would also open up the opportunity for parents to volunteer and be in the classroom and all those different things if they assess that they're willing to accept that risk.
Great. Thank you, Damon. Joe?
I think I know a little bit of what Angela's talking about here, because I've been involved in a few different ways. One of them, when my oldest first started in preschool, I just went to class as an observer and just got to watch the teacher and the kids. And then I know that there was some controversy, and some of that changed. The time period of that shrunk. And really the opportunities in the classroom were sort of field trips, doing learning centers, or being sort of that room mom, room dad. And those are great. The field trips, as maybe some of you other parents know, it can be competitive to get on that list. If you don't get your foreman right away, you're not going to make the field trip with your child. So I do see what she's saying, how things have changed a little bit over time as far as the volunteering. Now, about the curriculum, there's a good point there, which is exactly when and where and how do you get involved. So I think maybe there's just an opportunity to do a better job communicating how to get those opportunities. And I noted from being, a parent of 3 with different grades and different teachers in the grades, that sort of each teacher runs their class a little bit differently, and that those volunteer opportunities are a little bit differently. And so just maybe there's a way that as part of that information handout that comes out when you sort of go meet the teachers at the beginning of each school year, that we can help guide those teachers to clearly state what those volunteer opportunities are, and if they want to participate somehow in the curriculum, what those opportunities are.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to I see 3 hands up right now. If you have a question, please put your hand up in the next minute or so, and then I'm going to cut off questions after that. So the next question goes to Mrs. Patterson, or comes from Mrs. Patterson, I should say.
If someone else has not asked something, feel free, because I don't want to.
It's okay. I'm going to take all 3 of these questions and any hands that go up in the next minute, and then we'll.
Awesome. I wanted to know, what do you love about MA? What's amazing about MA, and what could make MA even better with you on the leadership team?
Show how it's coming in and everything, and that typically takes.
Okay. Let's start this with Damon.
I love about MA that my kids love it. So, it's I have a 7th grader and a 9th grader. My oldest daughter is a senior at Air Academy. And we've been, I've lived in, it'd take a while to count all the states and overseas, and I've been in a lot of schools, and my kids like going to school. So I don't feel like I know as well as I could how much I would love it, because last year my kids were at home for a lot of it, and it's been, kind of back and forth. But when my kids go to school, they come home, they like their teachers, they like the students they're around. I like the parents at MA that I know. kind of my vision for making things better would be to continue to add grades and add get MA to where it's a really a K through 12 school. And as we do that and as we grow, we're going to have an ability to add sports and different things like that, extracurricular activities, other kind of arts opportunities that maybe don't exist now, or at least not at the same level as some of the other schools around. And so that's kind of my vision, is to see the Monument Academy become a K through 12 school with a lot of those opportunities. So I feel like my girls are getting a great environment and they're around great kids and great parents, but maybe there's some places where they're missing out just because we haven't quite got there because of the age of Monument Academy. And I want to see Monument Academy get to the place where it's a K through 12 awesome school, like I feel it is in the lower grades.
Great. Let's go to Lindsay.
So things I love about MA are, there's many, but I'd say really, I feel like my kids are getting a really quality education, and the kind that frankly, I wish that I had had growing up. So many of the things that the school emphasizes with values and tradition, loving our country, all of those things, I really wish that I'd had that growing up. So I'm so pleased and I feel really blessed that I get to send my kids to a school like MA. I love that we teach character and that we teach our children resilience, that it's encouraged to not always just bring your kid whatever they forgot, that there are lessons to be learned from having accountability, and that you can overcome whatever that is. If you forgot your project, it's okay. You'll take a hit on your grade, but you'll still be okay. I also really appreciate that we teach critical thinking. I feel like it's really lacking in so many ways. And cursive. I was just around a young girl who's about to graduate from high school, and she can't read cursive. So she could sign her name, but she can't read cursive. And my kids won't have that problem. It's amazing watching my lefty kindergartner. His handwriting is almost better than mine. I also love the small size. I remember when we first moved here and we had our kids there, and I was in the school and realizing that teachers that didn't have my son in class, but seeing him up in the hallway, they knew his name. And I thought that's amazing. And that's what I want for them, even going into middle school and high school, that they are known, they're not getting lost in the mix. The staff, no matter who they interact with in their classes, everybody knows each other and they have that sense of community, and it doesn't get to feel too overwhelming. In terms of things I'd like to improve, maybe something I recently learned was about some of the committees that the school offers where there are parent positions. And I wish I'd mentioned this in the last answer, but I'll mention it now because it is on my list of things. But just that there are places for you to plug in as a parent if you don't have the ability to get the huge time commitment like being on the board. You can get involved in like a curriculum committee and some of the others. And so I think we could do a better job of conveying that information to the parents about these are places where we want your input and you can get involved. I think we know about the SAC committee, but a lot of the others I don't think most people are aware of. And then also as we can grow and really fill our classes to the where we want them to be without getting too large, that PPR will also enable us to help our teacher pay. And I know that's on our list every year, and we want to see that. We value our educators. We want to continue to retain them and recruit excellent educators. And so where we can bring that in line with the district, I'd love to see that as we continue to grow as a school and increase our enrollment.
Great. And Joe, right? Yes.
Great. I love this question. One, as an area sports coach, I actually get to coach kids from all the schools. And I can tell you a few things that really set the MA kids apart. One, the handwriting, the cursive first handwriting from the beginning, it sets them apart. The handwriting looks better. Also, their whole literacy is a little bit better because of that. And I've seen that personally. Also, the reading requirement, the 20 minutes a day, and then even things like Miss Collier's book challenge of the 20 books. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a big requirement, but it does pay off. I've seen it compared to other kids again. The same as with the math. The math is a lot more homework than I know the other kids are getting within the district and even just outside of our district. But it just sets them apart. Another thing that sets MA apart that I don't see in the other schools, there's really a stronger sense of community amongst the children. And really they think of themselves all as sort of one group of students or one grade. And I don't think there's divisions amongst the classes as we see in other places, even in our own district. So then you asked, so like, what do you bring differently as a board member that could help out? So my background as an attorney and a business owner is I have experience in sort of a lot of sort of corporate governance and real estate matters. And those are two things that the school as it grows are going to need in sort of a strategic sense. And so I think that that is a good fit for me. I was also a college instructor for a long time and was on a scholarship committee for my college. And when you look at sort of how we name the cohorts in the secondary school, they're all named after, collegiate peaks. And so if there's sort of unwritten, value at our school that this is a major college prep school. And I think that my background there helps as well, and what I'd like to see. Now, as far as like what changes that I would bring to the curriculum, I'm really happy with how the curriculum has gone. And I would really rely more on parental input. I think the things have gone so well that I don't have a specific curriculum plan. I did, though, ask my 4th grade soccer team what we should change. And they said that recess should be an hour long each. And so that they're going to be tough to say no to. So that's out there. I don't know how the board is going to deal with that.
Awesome. Well, I feel like Amy Torrance is going to want to get her hands on all three of you after those great responses. Okay, Miss Jamie Harding.
Yes, hi. First, thank you to the current board and also now the new candidates for giving your time to our wonderful school. My question is, regarding limited resources that were mentioned, do you have any ideas for additional funding for the school?
Oh, that's me. Let's start with Damon, please.
I don't really have any ideas for additional funding for the school. So I think it's the board's responsibility to apply for whatever funding that we can get. I definitely think there should be opportunities for parents to participate, and I put that in some of my answers for the one of the questions on the questionnaire. I think parents and coaches should have wide latitude. The orchestra should have wide latitude on raising funds for specific projects, and whether it be instruments or equipment or whatnot. But I don't have anything that's like a fundraiser or anything like that I have on the docket. No.
Okay. Lindsay, or actually Joe. I'm sorry, Lindsay.
Okay, sure. Well, let's talk about just some of the limits that we're up against as a charter school. So, one, you can't charge a tuition. That's just state law. We're limited to the per pupil funding that we receive from the state. Our own district takes a small portion of that as part of their kind of management fee for the services that they provide. So what we have from the school, that's what we have. Then so what can we add to it? We can do some things like activity fees for, specific events that certain students participate in. Other things that have worked well just at MA in the past, the ticketed drama performances or concerts, those have been great. And they've also brought people together. Another one that we'd want to save for like a really, really important fundraising event, but that auction, for those of you who remember the auction years ago, the Green for Green, that was amazing. That just turned out so well. I think that there are other things there as well, whether it's a business sponsorship here or there, or specific fundraising, that there's some that it can at least make a little difference. Some handprints maybe more than footprints, but it can still make a difference there. And then I think that there's just more that we could brainstorm as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lindsay.
So this is the kind of thing that really gets my brain going, because I love brainstorming and getting creative with some of these things. And I actually have two sister-in-laws that work for a charter out in Grand Junction. So I kind of picked their brain a little bit because they happen to both be specials teachers that often need the funding, struggle to get the funding. Those programs often get cut from places. I'm thankful that MA really puts an emphasis on our specials and art programs and things like that. But their school actually has a middle school, high school as well. And one of the things that they recently did that I think would be worth looking into is a booster committee. And a booster committee it doesn't have to strictly focus on sports as well. It could encompass more than that. It could encompass more of the clubs and extracurriculars that we want to see. And that is another opportunity for parents to plug in and get involved with that as we're growing our secondary campus. So that is one idea that I had. There's others that would just be ways that we could involve the community that wouldn't cost us money, but provide us some of those extracurriculars. The mid-year SAC feedback was that that's what parents want to see. We want to see more clubs. We want to see more of those extracurricular things. And the student councils were talking about it, because my son was talking about all the ideas that they came up with, including things like baking club and some of those. But we have resources within our community that we could reach out to retirees that have some of those skills that would want to come and mentor the kids and do that on a basis that doesn't have to cost us money. So not only are there ways where we can do some fundraising and develop a program like what a lot of traditional middle school, high schools have with a booster committee, but we can utilize resources we have around us that won't have to cost us anything. But the other thing that we could do with grants is, I think that we have a grant writer. I think there's a grant writer that the whole district uses, but it would be worth finding out if we have that parent talent too. If we have people that are grant writers, or we can retain somebody on a hourly basis, just brainstorming that kind of idea that if somebody would really be paying attention to things that we can apply for and submit as a charter, rather than it being someone that has the district as a whole that is their job arena. So there's some ideas.
Awesome. Mrs. Sebastian Johnson.
Hi. Thank you everybody for being here tonight. I appreciate listening to all your comments and everything. I got asked this on an interview one time, and so I always like hearing the answer to it. What is a question you were hoping to be asked tonight, or a topic you were hoping to be brought up that you would like to share your strengths and thoughts and opinions on?
Oh, great question. Lindsay, can we have you go first on this one?
Sure. So I guess maybe just the why now question. And that is, I would answer just that I finally have my children at a point where they're a little bit older, and I find that I'm not just mom every day. I can actually start putting my passions into a place that is useful, my skills somewhere that's useful. I have the time to really devote my energy and ideas and strengths that in a place that will not only impact my children, but I also feel like this arena of education right now, getting strong board members on the school boards is important, because this is what we will see have a real impact for, I mean, even 20 years from now, if we're able to make an impact on education initiatives right now. So for the first time, I'm feeling like I have somewhere to channel passion, other than, 10 years ago when I last was working in an environment and could do that. But now I feel like I can be convicted in this path and join a group of people that are really making a difference in the most important area of our lives, which is our children.
Awesome. Damon?
I think the question probably that I would like to be asked is just why I chose Monument Academy for my kids. And it's, I'm really committed to a classical education. We've done homeschool with our kids. We've done Christian schools with our kids. We've done, just generic public school. I've been in DoD schools. And so why choose a charter? Why Monument Academy? Really, I think, Joe touched on a lot of the things early on with kids in the grammar phase of just learning the basics and having a great curriculum like Saxon Math to get those things in their mind. And then really, I just have a vision for my kids having to wrestle with the great thinkers and to think about great ideas and read classics and talk about the ideas that made our country great. I think we tend to look at, the great men of our founding or the great women of our founding, right? And really, all of them had warts, right? That's not really what we need to wrestle with. What we really need to wrestle with is their ideas, and those ideas that, we in our country set as a foundation for our country, which became who we are today. And our kids should spend time wrestling with that and thinking about it and thinking about, was it right? Was it not right? And where those ideas came from. So that's kind of what I like about a classical education. That's what I like about Monument Academy, that we can wrestle with those ideas, think about them, talk about the merits of them, and then apply that across, history, literature, the reading programs that we're doing. Even if I'm learning a language, that I can kind of compare, what happened in the US with what happened in Spain, or what happened in Mexico, those kinds of things, as I'm going through Spanish class and tying all that together. That's what I love about Monument Academy, and what I love about a classical education is just that well-roundedness, which I think prepares you to be a thoughtful person, and it prepares you to do well if you in college or at whatever else that you tend to, whatever it is that you decide to do. That I just want to see young people who, regardless of what career they end up in, where they go to school for follow-on education, that they've really become lifelong learners, that they know how to read well, they know how to think, and they know how to apply it to whatever, sphere of life that they end up in. And also that we can produce servant leaders, right? Kids that are happy to serve their community, and they learn that by seeing their parents serve, right? So the more opportunities that we give parents to be in school, the more that they see their parents being willing to just take out the trash, the more they're going to learn that. And so that's kind of my vision, is to see kids that are great thinkers and lifelong learners, and that they're going to be servant leaders, because someday, right, I'm going to be looking to them to lead this country.
Beautiful. Okay, Joe.
Yeah, so I think that, the questions were asked in sort of a blend, and I was really hoping to get to answer, what you like best about Monument Academy, and certainly, the curriculum and that sense of community has been there. Also, I think that for what I wanted to get asked was sort of, what do you see going forward for Monument Academy? And we have this terrific tradition of excellence so far, and it has come in spite of a lot of circumstances a lot of trials from many directions. And yet here, Monument Academy it is growing, every year faster than the surrounding schools. And I think that our community, our parents value that charter education and the classical education. And so where I'd like to fit in with that is, I've been involved in different ways in the past, but I sort of foresee really exciting times as we finish out the high school and have everything from preschool through 12th grade and bring our buildings to capacity, that we're really just going to have a top school with so many different activities for the children to be involved and for the parents to be involved. And we've come so far, but there's still so many exciting times ahead.
Great. Okay, our final question will come from the person who asked the very first question, which was Mrs. Kim Stoltenberg.
Hey, glad to finish this out. So my question is, the 105 project will be greatly impacting our West Campus in the very near future. With negotiations currently happening, what experience do you bring to the board that will help our school receive the best outcome in this project?
Let's see, Lindsay started last. Let's start with Joe.
Okay, great. Good question. And I've been excited about this for just the potential for the county to fix some trouble out there on the road. And I know that Mr. R has some concerns about the memorandum of understanding, which I haven't seen, and I'd love to see at some point. So, what do I bring that can help with that? Well, I spent about 10 years working in real estate one way or the other. First, I worked in real estate development, mostly in multifamily apartment building, but also in commercial property acquisitions. And in one of those projects on an apartment complex I built in Denver, we actually had to share an ingress with Home Depot and had to work with the city to try to make the best out of the traffic that we could. It's not quite the same situation, but it's at least similar. Then I spent also years working in real estate lending, where I was a lender on both commercial and multifamily development projects. So I have a real estate background, and I know in this situation that that each party has certain rights. So the county, they've got a right of way for that highway, and that's probably right number one. We have our property border that's there, and we have the land use limitations of that property. And I understand we have some sort of contract that exists with the church. Now, I'd be shocked if we didn't, in negotiating with the church, actually have a permanent easement to use that part of the property, that would have been built in sort of to our whole development plan. But maybe it wasn't, because Mr. R said something in that last board meeting otherwise. Anyway, just that I've worked in real estate a long time as an attorney and a developer. And to me, it's both an exciting project that I personally would like to be a part of.
Great, thank you. Lindsay?
Well, I don't have like specific experience like what Joe just talked about in those areas, but I do have experience sitting in the car line for the last 5 years. So I bring a strong parent desire to see something remedied, but I totally agree with Mr. R that we have to take the time as a board and really be careful about what decision is made, make sure we are analyzing everything carefully and being creative, brainstorming all the different options, because the viability of our school is at stake. If we anybody who's been on some of the monument pages knows our car line is rather infamous. And if it will not help our community relations and our attractiveness as a school if we rush and make the wrong decision about the egress and entrances and exits for our school. So I bring just the ability to really dig into things and brainstorm and get creative, and patience to make sure we pick the right solution, but be a contributing member with opinions on the matter as well. And as someone that really wants to see this done, I mean, I've been in that car line when I've almost been collateral damage from other cars just making unsafe decisions. So I want to see this done well and in the best interest of the school and everyone that's on the road. So we just got to make sure we take the time and make the right decision in this matter that protects our school as well.
Great. And Damon?
For me, I'm probably the newest one to Monument. I do love Monument and love the character of Monument. So I think we should try to protect that. I'm not a lawyer, so you can decide for yourself if that's a feature or a bug. But I have worked with, in the Air Force. I was a 06 in the Air Force, and I've worked in the DC area, worked at the Pentagon, worked on more committees. I know how to do those types of things better than I would like to. And probably the thing that I'm also a businessman, so I understand the business interests of getting the traffic to move, and I understand the school interests of being a parent and getting the traffic to move. Probably the thing that I would say I'm the best at is just talking to people and coming up with a solution that can, as much as possible, make all parties happy. I don't think anybody has any interest to have traffic jams, on 105. So it's a probably all parties interested want the same thing, and we probably just have different ideas of how to get there. And so getting together with people outside of the board and the parents of Monument Academy may sound a little threatening, but it's probably the best thing to do, is that we all get together and decide, because we all want that traffic to move. We all want people to have access. The church wants people to be able to move freely in and out. And I'm not sure I understand all the issues, but certainly we need somebody like Joe looking at it and saying, hey, here's what you can legally do and what you can't do. But the biggest thing we need to do is just all talk and come to a solution that's the best one for the city of Monument, because as Monument Academy, we want the city of Monument to love us as well, right? And so we're majority parents from Monument, and so we want to be good neighbors as much as possible. And I think that's probably what the city of Monument wants. That's what the businessmen want. That's what the church wants, and that's what the county wants. So probably the best thing I could bring is more years than I care to count of talking to people and getting things done. So.
Okay, well, that concludes our questions. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's here this evening. I think it speaks volumes how many parents we have here. I think we had some incredible questions, and I hope this was helpful to everyone. I am going to go ahead and post this up on our YouTube channel as well. So if you have friends that maybe missed it, you can direct them there. So thank you all so much. I hope you all will vote. The election will be held electronically, so you'll receive your voting instructions over email starting Monday of next week, the 26th, and it will end on the 30th at noon. So I think we have 3 incredible candidates. Thank you all so much for running and being willing to serve in this role. We're very blessed to have you. So thanks to everyone for being here.